There's a door in the Smith family garage that we never see open. It's not the portal gun vault or the storage freezer. It's a small gray metal hatch in the corner behind Rick's cluttered workbench, visible only for a frame or two in certain episodes, like a glitch in the animation itself. Fans have spotted it, speculated about it, but no one has ever seen what's behind it. The horror theory goes like this: that hatch leads to the basement, the one place in the multiverse even Rick is afraid to talk about. The basement isn't part of the house. It isn't even part of their dimension. It's a space between dimensions, built by Rick himself to contain his mistakes. Every failed experiment, every broken clone, every corrupted version of his family gets dumped there. And because of the way dimensional energy works, the basement feeds on life. It uses the memories and emotions of anyone connected to Rick to grow and evolve. Every time he resets a timeline or abandons a reality, that version of the Smith family is dragged into the basement, left to rot in the dark. We get hints of this throughout the series. In Rick Potion 9, Rick and Morty accidentally turn their world into a Cronenberg nightmare and flee to another dimension, burying the bodies of their original selves in the backyard. Fans have always taken this as dark humor, but think about it. How did Rick have another dimension ready, perfectly identical, with open graves waiting? The theory says that's not coincidence, it's connection. Every backup reality Rick jumps to is tied through the basement, the hub of all his abandoned worlds. It's not teleportation, it's decay management. Each time Rick escapes one timeline, a shadow version of the Smith house is created down there, filled with echoes of his family screaming, decaying, and merging into one another. These echoes slowly gain awareness, developing into distorted copies of Morty, Summer, and Beth, disfigured, feral, whispering in voices that blend with static. The walls are said to move like living flesh, built from leftover DNA and trans-dimensional matter. It's a graveyard of failed universes. There's an unsettling moment in the Rick Shank Redemption, where Rick's subconscious shows a young version of him refusing to build the portal gun. The device that appears is supposedly a memory of loss, but what if that memory wasn't metaphorical? What if that's when he first opened the basement and saw what was waiting for him below? The despair that drives him to nihilism could come from the knowledge that every timeline he touches eventually collapses into that same place of horror. The theory goes deeper when you look at Total Recall, the episode where parasites implant fake memories into the family. Those parasites supposedly die when exposed, but their existence is strangely similar to the entities that inhabit the basement, creatures that feed on emotional memory, that rewrite the past to sustain themselves. What if the memory parasites aren't aliens at all, but things that escaped through the cracks in the basement door? Their entire goal to be remembered mirrors the cries of the forgotten Smiths trapped below. Morty's nightmares about clones and being replaced could also be fragments of what the basement projects into his mind. In Rest and Relaxation, when Morty separates from his toxic self, he describes feeling lighter. The other Morty, the toxic one, wasn't destroyed. Rick just said he handled it. Maybe the toxic Morty wasn't vaporized. Maybe he was dumped into the basement, joining the others. The theory claims that every emotion Rick deems useless ends up there, mutating into something alive. And then there's the chilling idea that the basement isn't hidden from the Smith family. It's hidden by them, because the versions of themselves who know it exists are gone. They were replaced long ago by cloned backups. That's why small inconsistencies appear throughout the series. Sometimes the family remembers things differently, or photos in the background change between episodes. These aren't animation errors, they're residue from dimension swaps. Rick replaces them whenever reality starts breaking down. Each time he does, the discarded versions sink into the basement, crying through the dimensional floorboards like static whispers. Evil Morty's rise makes more sense through this lens. His hatred of Rick's isn't about rebellion, it's survival. He's a product of the basement, the only Morty to escape. His missing eye hides a trans-dimensional scar, something left by the machinery that tore him apart before he crawled out. When he finally broke free and used the Citadel systems to break the central finite curve, what he was really doing was opening the door. For a brief moment in the season 5 finale, when the Citadel collapses, you can hear what sounds like thousands of voices screaming beneath the background score. Those are the basement's echoes, unleashed across every dimension. The scariest part of this theory isn't what's under the Smith house, it's that the show might already be showing us the aftermath. Every new season, every new reset, every sudden tone shift could be another version of the family replaced after a collapse. Maybe the Rick and Morty we're watching now aren't even the originals, but one of the late-stage replacements. Maybe they're standing directly above the basement every episode, hearing faint noises in the dark, and pretending it's just the wind. And if you slow down the end credits of some episodes, right before the Adult Swim logo, you can sometimes catch a faint shadow under the garage door, a human shape standing still facing the camera. It doesn't move, it doesn't blink. Fans call it the other Morty, But maybe that's not another Morty at all. Maybe that's the first one, the one who never got out. So next time you see the Smith house, look at the floor. The tiles don't line up quite right. The hum of Rick's machines feels just a little too deep, a little too alive. And if you ever see that gray metal hatch behind the workbench, don't blink. It starts small, barely noticeable. In some episodes, Morty's pupils look just a little off. They shift shape, dilate unevenly, or seem to reflect more light than they should. At first, fans chalked it up to animation inconsistencies. But what if it isn't? What if the flicker in Morty's eyes isn't a drawing error at all, but something watching back? The theory calls it the infinite eye, and it's one of the darkest interpretations of Rick and Morty ever imagined. According to the theory, Morty's eye isn't just his eye, it's a window, not metaphorically, but literally, a biological aperture built by Rick. At some point between timelines, Rick experimented on a version of Morty's optic nerve to install a quantum observer, a device that can collapse and re-expand infinite realities by looking at them. The experiment failed, but the observer never left. It's been living inside Morty's retina ever since, quietly expanding every time he sleeps. If that sounds insane, look closer at Get Swifty. When the giant heads appear in the sky demanding "show me what you got," the Earth's reality bends around their gaze. The infinite eye theory says those heads aren't gods, they're prototypes. Rick didn't invent the concept of cosmic observers, he recreated it, and Morty was his test subject. That's why the camera lingers on Morty's eyes in moments of fear, and why in Morty Night Run, the gaseous being Krombopulos Michael mentions that Morty smells like an observer. It's a quiet, throwaway line that feels comedic, until you realize what it implies. Over time, the infinite eye begins to see too much. Every trauma Morty experiences, every death, dimension jump, and existential breakdown feeds the thing in his eye, teaching it what fear looks like. By season 3, it's become self-aware. Rick notices this in the Ricklantis mix-up, when he studies Morty's brainwaves and mutters, that's not me in there." The theory claims he wasn't talking about evil Morty, he was talking about the eye. Fans point to several visual clues. In Pickle Rick, when Rick's escape sequence flashes bright green, there's a one-frame moment where Morty's reflection in the lab glass has black eyes with a glowing dot in each. It's visible only when slowed down. In Rest and Ricklaxation, toxic Morty's eyes reflect the same eerie glow just before they merge again. The implication is that every time Rick cleans up Morty's psyche, the eye gets stronger, absorbing the discarded emotions, the pain, the trauma, and using them as fuel. Eventually, the eye begins bleeding between dimensions. That's why alternate Mortys, like Cop Morty, Campaign Morty, and President Morty, all have subtle differences in gaze or twitching movements. The eye connects them. It's not one Morty at all, but a network, a hive mind of Mortys linked by that single observer inside each eye. Evil Morty isn't evil because he hates Ricks. He's evil because he's the first Morty who realized what the eye is and chose to serve it. The true horror, according to the theory, is that Rick knows. He always knew. That's why he calls Morty the Mortiest Morty, because Morty's suffering, fear, and vulnerability are exactly what feed the eye. Rick keeps him close, not for love or companionship, but because the eye needs to stay stable. If Morty dies, the observer loses its anchor, and every reality it's been watching begins to collapse into one. That's the real reason Rick can't let Morty go, not because he loves him, but because Morty is the only thing holding the multiverse together. In the Vat of Acid episode, Rick berates Morty for wanting to undo death, but the reset device Morty uses looks suspiciously like a miniature portal gun, except it uses red light instead of green. The theory claims that device doesn't rewind time, it rewinds Morty's gaze. Each reset reverts the eye to a previous observation point, effectively deleting timelines and people from existence. When Rick destroys the device and forces Morty to face every death he's caused, it's because the eye was becoming unstable, seeing too many versions of reality at once. Rick had to traumatize Morty back into coherence. And there's one final clue, in the Rick Churi and Morty date. During the scene where the camera zooms into Morty's face as he stares at the collapsing White House, if you brighten and slow the frame, you can see a faint reflection of Rick in his pupil, except Rick's back is turned. The eye isn't reflecting what Morty sees, it's showing something behind the camera, something watching us. That's the final piece of the infinite eye theory, that the audience isn't observing the show is observing us. Every cutaway, every fourth wall joke, every direct look into the camera is the eye recording another universe, ours. Rick's multiverse isn't infinite because of portals or science, it's infinite because of perception, because Morty's eye keeps opening, dimension by dimension, frame by frame, and the scariest part, the eye can't close anymore. Every version of Morty across the multiverse sees through it, and when one of them blinks, another opens. Somewhere, right now, there's a version of Morty watching you too, quietly cataloging every decision you've made, every fear, every regret, Because once you've looked into the eye, it looks back forever. So next time you watch an episode and notice Morty staring into the camera for a second too long, don't laugh it off, don't blink, because that might be the moment the eye notices you noticing it, and adds your world to the list. Imagine a cold metallic chamber buried beneath the ever-expanding structure of the Council of Rick's stronghold at the Citadel. The lights flicker, the hum of impossible machinery resonates, and there's a corridor of doors, each one leading to a dimension. Behind each door, a different version of Morty Smith, some screaming, some silent, some barely conscious. Welcome to the hidden underside of the multiverse, where Ricks gather the broken pieces of their empire and Mortys become raw material. In the double episode Rick and Morty Season 1 finale, Close Rick Counters of the Rick Kind, Rick C137 is accused of murdering 27 Ricks and abducting their Mortys. We know from the show that the Council claims these crimes while hiding the fact that the mastermind is a Morty himself, the ominous evil Morty. Here's the horror-themed fan theory. The Citadel's exterior is a distraction. The real nightmare lies in the underbelly, a hidden level of industrial horror, where Mortys are farmed, experimented on, broken and recycled. The main characters glimpse this only in brief bursts, but the machinery operates on a much larger scale than the episodes suggest. The sequence begins innocuously enough. Rick C-137 and Morty are pulled into the council chambers. Rick is threatened. Morty sees hordes of Mortys in cages, misunderstood by his grandfather. In close Rick counters, the council arrests Rick C-137 and brings him before them. The room is vast, echoing oppressive, but beneath that room lies a deeper layer. The theory posits that when Mortys are abducted by the Ricks, they aren't simply held for questioning or training. They're ushered down into a subterranean manufacturing zone. This zone houses corridor upon corridor of doors, dimensions and compartments, where Mortys are used to feed the portal network. Their consciousness chipped, their bodies repurposed. We know from later episodes that the Citadel hides unpleasant truths. In the episode Rick Murray Jack, Season 5 Episode 10, the Citadel uses deformed Mortys in an underground factory to build a device to break through the central finite curve. The same infrastructure is likely the continuation of the darker system, Mortys whose minds have been snapped, whose identities erased, whose only value is as raw matter for Rick-engineered progress. Imagine bleak corridors of Mortys, some still screaming, some catatonic, all wired into machines extracting portal fluid or dimension leaks. Imagine the walls slick with the residue of fluid from misuse of portals, something that happens when the system breaks. The Ricks above behave as administrators, turning a profit in existential energy harvesting, each Morty a battery, a node in a network of existence. The show hints at Ricks using replacement Mortys. In close Rick counters, Rick C137 is told he is eligible for a free replacement Morty if his current one is injured. Think, the Ricks treat Mortys as disposable, and the hidden factory fits this logic. Mortys become interchangeable, their individuality extinguished. The underground machines churn out clones or fractured minds. When Morty asks why Rick keeps him around, Rick's answer betrays a darker truth. Morty is the thing he keeps because he still can. But down below, thousands of Mortys sit in silent rows, the backups. The good Morty is merely a facade. In the Rick Shank Rickdemption, Season 3 Episode 1, Rick collapses the Galactic Federation's prison and drags the Citadel into it, killing countless Ricks and Mortys in the process. The scale of destruction suggests enormous hidden infrastructure. Thousands of Mortys die, but the horrifying implication, how many Mortys were already lost, never shown, never counted. The factory corridor is mostly obliterated. This theory holds that our glimpses of Morty prisons and Morty factories are just the tip of the iceberg. Beneath, the factory still hums between resets. Evil Morty's rise to power is entwined with this. He didn't just kill Ricks, he inherited their machinery and intends to turn it inside out. What if the reason Rick C-137 remains attached to Morty is that he knows, subconsciously, that he's just one more Morty walking among countless others who might be replaced? What if the horror isn't outside but inside his own mind, the knowledge of mortality, disposability, and unworthiness? This dredges the emotional core of the series into darkness. Rick's nihilism, Morty's anxiety, and the multiverse's infinite cruelty. The factory below the Citadel is the ultimate scaffold of that cruelty. The corridors of doors, the lights cut, the machinery hums, a Morty screams, and somewhere a Rick adjusts his tie. In closing, the fan theory reads the series' sci-fi facade through a horror lens. The multiverse isn't just infinite possibilities, it's infinite exploitation. The Ricks happily wander dimensions, but they leave trails of shattered Mortys. The Citadel is marketed as a haven of Ricks and Mortys living in harmony, but under the surface lies the factory of broken broken souls. So next time you watch a scene at the Citadel, listen for the hum beneath the walls, look at the cages in the background, note how Mortys glance sideways, as though they've seen something they'll never unsee. Because the most terrifying thing in the universe of Rick and Morty isn't the monsters out there, it's the system you can't see.